One of the things that many dads feel is that this journey and this struggle, being a parent or being a good dad's not just about playing with your baby or interacting with your baby and so forth. It's about supporting your partner, but it's also about being proactive in your parenting, reaching out for information. So the research shows that when fathers are engaged early and are encouraged and supported and come along to appointments and so forth, they're more likely to continue that trend as time goes by.
Ngala acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the traditional custodians of Australia.
Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, Keith.
Hello.
Welcome. Episode 8 today. Woohoo. So today we have Keith here to discuss being a partner in the antenatal and postnatal period. We are also very aware that families do come in different shapes and sizes, and for this episode we're going to use the term dad or father. However, we acknowledge that today's discussion is also relevant for non-birthing primary caregivers, anyone. So Keith, tell us a little bit about yourself and what programs you're involved in at Ngala.
Well, I'm Keith with the DadsWA program at Ngala. I've been with that program for 13 years, which is a bit scary to say out loud, but prior to that I was also working with fathers and men for 5 years, so been pretty much 18 years working with fathers and men. I have a psychology background. I first became interested in the role that fathers play in the wellbeing of their children while studying psychology, and my first program that I was involved with was Fathers and Daughters, which was a very successful program at Relationships Australia. So currently at DadsWA, we mainly focus on the early years with fathers. So we do an antenatal program for expectant dads and a 3-week program for new dads. We also provide information and support for fathers. We produce resources for fathers. And we also do a circle of security program that's 8 weeks for dads who want to connect with their children. Develop a better attachment to their children. I have 2 grown-up children of my own who have children of their own. I have 3 beautiful grandchildren, 2 grandsons and a granddaughter, and I just really love spending time with them, and it's wonderful to be a part of their life and think back to what it was like to be a new parent but not have the same responsibilities. So thanks for having me.
It's the blessing of being a grandparent, isn't it? You get all of that joy of the grandchildren, but you get to hand them back to their parents.
Exactly.
But 18 years at Ngala, or 18 years working with dads and parents, as well as being a father and a grandfather yourself, a wealth of information to bring to us today.
Hopefully.
So let's maybe have a little bit of a chat about why is it important that dads are involved in their child's development, and what is the impact that fathers and dads have on development?
Well, it's interesting because I've noticed over the last few years that when I first started doing this work, fathers, we had to convince fathers that they had an important role to play in the development of their children and the well-being of their children. And more recently, we're noticing that fathers are reaching out to us for information and support and are actively seeking that information and support and engaging in parenting programs. They know that they have an important role to play. They're not exactly sure what it is, but that's one of the first things we cover in our sessions with new dads and expectant dads is that how important they actually are to child development. They bring their own unique characteristics to parenting, just as mum does. Most of what parents do overlaps, obviously, but both mum and dad bring something unique to the parenting table. And we explain to dads what that is, the way they might interact with children differently. They might be a little bit more physical. Their voices are different and so forth. And those bring significant benefits to children in terms of how well they do at school, how many friends they have and so forth, and how healthy and well they are later on in life. Of course, we promote to dads that the ideal situation is when both caregivers or parents or whatever are working together as a parenting team to achieve the best possible outcomes for dads. So that's still a powerful message for dads, we've noticed. I get up and talk in front of groups and I'm get a bit sick of me saying my sound of my own voice saying this, but then you see the dads sit up and take notice and tune in. So it's still a very important message, I think, to begin any conversation with dads, whether you're a midwife, a child health nurse or whatever it is, highlighting the important role they play in the development and future outcomes of their child.
Yeah. I like the way that you said as a team, in parenting as a team, because sometimes it can feel like a lot of pressure does get put onto the maternal side, where there's a lot of expectation there around mums knowing what to do, which isn't true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone starts the job on the same day, don't they?
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. That's one of the things we do highlight with dads is what new mums in particular, experience, so that there's a better understanding. And when I talk to mums, I do talk about what new dads experience as well, because the more understanding you have of each other's, what each other is experiencing, the better you're able to work together as a team. But we do highlight exactly what you've just said, that mums aren't born with this natural ability to be parents. They learn on the job as you do. Perhaps the only, well, not the only, but an advantage that mums do have is that they've obviously carried a child for that 9 months, which helps develop that connection. But from that point on, mums can often feel overwhelmed, very stressed, underprepared for the role, often disconnected from society and so forth. So these are points we let new dads and expected dads know, so that they can better support their partner.
And what are the main reasons that you find people attend your groups?
Well, it's supporting mum.
Yeah.
That's the number one reason when we ask parents or dads, expected dads at the start of the session, what information they're seeking, why they're here. There's still a few mum sent me's, which is fine, and we understand that. That's how it's always been and will continue to be. But yes, that's always the number one response. Certainly with expectant dads, new dads still put that as their main reason, but they have a lot of reasons particular to their own child that they say that I'm here to develop a bond, I'm here to understand why, maybe my child's sleep and so forth. But new dads very much so, or expectant dads, very much so are seeking ways to support their partner. I suspect initially it's during the birth because that's where often expectant parents are focused. Yes. But our program, it's called You're Going to Be a Dad, focuses a little bit on the birth, but mainly on what comes after. Because we know that parents, when they've had their baby, often remark, we didn't learn about any of this in antenatal education. We learn about the clinical side of things, what to expect during the birth and so forth, but all the changes that happen we weren't made aware of, and that's what we try to highlight with dads. So hopefully, I'm sure most of it's sort of forgotten, or not forgotten, but drifts back
Filed
into memory.
away
Certainly when it happens, maybe they go, oh, that Ngala program said something about this. So hopefully they can, or at least seek out some information about that.
Just remembering the Ngala, I think, is good because they can then go to the website and find all the stuff. So
you talk to that Keith guy again, or the parenting
or
line.
Yeah, and look, that's a very important part of the program as well. We say to dads, being a parent or being a good dad's not just about playing with your baby or interacting with your baby and so forth. It's about supporting your partner, but it's also about being proactive in your parenting, reaching out for information. So don't just rely on mum. Yes, you'll get a lot of your information from mum. We know that. Funnily enough, mums do a lot more preparation before the birth than dads do. I remember that of myself, that I just, went along with the flow. But we're saying to dads there's lots of information out there specifically for fathers. So reach out and access that information. And we do talk about what reliable information is, talking about that it's come from a good source. And it's fine, reading about dads' blogs and that sort of thing because that's someone's experience. But we're at Ngala, as you well know, we're evidence-based, and we encourage fathers to seek information from health centres and universities and researchers, etc., reputable websites and so forth to support their parenting needs. And hopefully that's a trend that they'll continue to do, because the research shows that when fathers are engaged early and are encouraged and supported and come along to appointments and so forth, they're more likely to continue that trend as time goes by.
including them, Because it has
Yeah.
been in the past that it's all kind of focused on mum and baby.
Yep.
Dad sometimes gets pushed to the wayside. So bringing them in, I think, is great.
Yeah.
And I really love the focus on promoting help seeking as
Yes.
well. I
Yeah.
think that that's excellent because dads, all parents, but dads in particular, need to know that they're not alone, that there is help out there, that there's evidence-based help, and how they can access it.
Yeah, yeah. And we do. We sometimes have to be a bit careful with the language with dads. It's changing, but the term help is not always.
Yeah, it's loaded.
Yeah, exactly. And look, there's lots of dads nowadays who are quite prepared to talk about their mental health struggles they may be having and so forth. But generally speaking, we try and communicate about seeking information, seeking support, say terms like if you're struggling a bit and so forth. So, yeah, and the more that we know that the more that dad learns about parenting, feels confident about his parenting, is more capable about his parenting, then that is obviously great for bub, but it's also wonderful for mum. And because mothers tell us time and time again that when they feel they have a partner who is more of a co-parent or part of a parenting team rather than someone they're supervising or an employee or whatever. Or,
A tambourine parent chiming in, fading into the background.
yeah, just standing in the corner waiting for an instruction, then that takes a lot of pressure off them. There was a very interesting study done in one of the Nordic states, I can't remember if it was Norway or Sweden, where they were talking to parents, dads and mums about child health nurse visits. They have a very good home visiting program over there. And they also talked to the dads. And one of the things they got from the research was mum saying, oh, it's so wonderful you're talking to dad. It just feels they should be included because it feels like it's all on my shoulders and so forth. And that's what we say to people who work with dads or work with parents. It's quite easy. We've got mum and dad sitting there and we're chatting away to mum, and that sends two messages. One is mum's going, oh, it's all on me, it's all on me. And one, dad's going, and secondly, dad's going, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't need to listen or whatever. So just the occasional, and it doesn't take much, just the occasional turning to dad and saying, oh, what do you think or how are you going? And most dads say, look, I don't want to be the centre of attention. My mum is one I want to focus on, but it's great to be brought into the conversation occasionally and at least ask a question. So, and obviously that's reinforced by what mums say.
Yeah.
Yes, when my partner's
Takes that burden
confident
off.
and capable. Yeah, exactly. I feel I can leave baby with bub.
Yeah.
We had a years ago when we were running playgroups and for dads, and one of the playgroup sessions, a mum rang us up and said, oh, look, I'm sending my partner along. He won't be left alone with baby, and it is just really, difficult because he can't settle bub. So this particular dad came along to the session, and you can see why he couldn't settle baby. He was only a little baby, months old, and he was tense and bouncing up and down and so forth. And then he got engaged in a conversation with some other dads at the group about a fishing trip one of them had taken, and he just got completely distracted. Baby's still settling. And then he looked down and looked at baby and went, God, that's never happened before, because baby had fallen asleep. And that was the last time we saw him. And mum rang us up and called us miracle workers and everything like that.
Wow.
But the point is that the fact that dad didn't feel confident around baby or being left alone meant mum was restricted in what she couldn't do. So sometimes it's with dads, it's as simple as that. So a message to dads around settling is, just you need to learn to settle bub. Mightn't be the same way as mum. In fact, it most likely won't be. There'll be different methods, but it's about persistence.
Yeah.
And it's about just relaxing a bit and, being engaged with baby. So, so that was, I always
a
remember
great
that was
story.
quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
And are there sort of other things, or can you speak a little bit about that antenatal period, because you do run that group for dads, you're going to be a dad, things that dads can do in that period to get them into that fathering mindset?
Yes, it is quite challenging because when we do ask dads in that period, when will you become a father, and what do you think they say?
The day the baby's
Exactly,
born.
once
Yeah.
baby's arrived in there. And that's not what mums answer. They consider themselves to be mums that, maybe...
The positive pregnancy test, perhaps?
Exactly. It could vary,
different.
but even so, we do highlight a couple of things. It's about that they are having an impact on baby's development right now, and that certainly is around taking care of mum and making sure mum's Wellbeing is going well, and she's, happy and not stressed out and so forth, because that we know has an impact on baby in utero. But also the fact that about the last trimester, of course, we know that baby can hear, not only hear in the womb, but also remember sounds and recognise sounds later on in the womb. And that's that can be a real turning point for a lot of dads, because okay, so we talk about singing to baby and obviously your voice, and if you happen to play an instrument, playing some music, and it can be used as and we've got a great video in one of the sessions where a brand newborn baby and crying away, screaming away, and dad starts talking to baby, and you see the baby's eyes start flicking and obviously recognising the voice, and that's and that really hits it home for dads. It's the same as you dads, and you've probably come across this lots of times, where what am I supposed to do? It's not doing anything until the first smile comes along around that 6-week period. Then, okay, they're responding, and sometimes they think gas, and that is just a smile.
That's okay. No,
that's fine. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're engaging. But when we talk about mutual gaze and about your baby looking at you and communicating, then again, that's another aha moment, because, I'm having an impact. That is your baby trying to connect with you. And again, we've got another marvellous video clip of a baby talking with newborn, again, talking with dad and imitating mouth movements and so forth. And that's, again, it's dad's like the practical applications and practical examples of things they're doing. So if you can talk in vague, or not in vague, but in non-specific terms about brain development and so forth, but when you're mentioning those sort of things, it certainly has a big impact. So we had one dad in a group who, when we talked about mutual gaze, about when you're talking to your baby, if your baby happens to be meeting your gaze, then you do that serve and return where they might make some noise or a mouth movement, you imitate it and raise your eyebrows and so forth. And he was working from home quite a bit. He's an IT person, and he said, so when I look over in the cot at my baby and just checking on her and she's looking up at me, I should stay there for a while. And that just really hit home, because you thought, well, so we as practitioners can sometimes be a little bit, not blasé, but we hear it so often and we know about it that we forget that others don't always.
Yeah.
And he went, and you just go, well, wonder what pathway that sent that chap on. He's a nice bloke and obviously would have been a good dad, but he would just look over and check baby and go back to work. And now hopefully every time he's doing that, he's engaging with bubs.
Yeah.
So
because you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you.
Exactly. So, you can't make assumptions. And look, dads are far more informed than they once were. They've got more access to information, and they're more aware of the important role they play. But it's still amazing to see the response from dads when you go into detail about the influence they have on their baby's development. And again, practical tips. That's very important for dads. Not too many. We can overload parents, as you all know. There are other ways that fathers, we do everything we talk about in our sessions is we tie it back to how it supports your partner, because obviously that's what dads are saying they're there for. So, for example, there's often a change in relationships after the birth of a baby. Well, there's pretty much always a change in the relationship. We make dads aware of this, but we also talk about ways that they can, things they can do to support mum while she's going through these challenges that we discussed earlier. And things, just simple tips like, and a lot of dads are doing this, like taking baby whenever you can. We talk about taking every opportunity to bond with your baby. So that not only includes, as I've mentioned before, play and fun things, but also nappy changes, bathing, supporting feeding. If you happen to be doing a bottle feed, you can do that. And just spending time with baby, but also supporting mum with work around the house. So every opportunity, dads, that you have to spend time with your baby, it improves bonding and attachment, obviously, as we well know. And we say to dads, you don't get to spend as much time with baby usually. So every chance you get, do it. And a lot of dads are doing the early morning time with baby. That's very common now.
4 a.m. wake up.
Yeah, and going off for a walk or having a little bit of a jog with baby, saying to mum, simple things like saying to mum, look, if you want to catch up with someone for a coffee, I'm happy to have bub for an hour. And we do say to dads, look, sometimes mums mightn't be comfortable with that, or especially new mums, or they may say, oh, no, not yet. But the fact you're offering is a great level. They know that you're thinking about what they're going through. But also in the longer term, we do talk to dads about planning for some couple time. And it can start with a simple regular conversations. And we say to dads, just distinguish between you as parents and you as a couple if you can, because you're both now. And obviously as new parents, you'll be spending a lot of time talking about baby. But try and take short opportunities when baby's maybe resting or asleep or whatever, just to have a chat, just talk about stuff.
Check in.
Yeah, and just someone you caught up with or something. And that it sounds basic, but a lot of parents say they don't do that very much. It's just
it's actually quite challenging when you're in that phase of life, which is all consuming. I remember my husband and I went on like an early date after we had one of my children, I can't remember which one, and we set it as we said, let's set the timer and see how long we can go without talking about our children. And it's actually quite hard because it's such a consuming stage of your life, but at the same time you still want to have that connection and maybe that time to see yourself as a couple as opposed to as these new parents.
New parents, exactly. Yeah, and that's something we say to dads, look, you will probably need to take the initiative on that because it's all-consuming, obviously, but really all-consuming for mums. Dads still in today's society are often the ones that head back out to work earlier, not always, and it's changing a bit, which is great. So they're getting out into the world again, and mums, boom, 24/7 around baby. So it will be you, Dad, that needs to say to your partner, look, I'm having a chat with my mum, your mum, friends or whatever about maybe having bub. This might be later on, obviously, a little bit down the track, but the planning, the simple act of planning has a great impact on, you know what it's like when you know you've got holidays coming up in 6 months and you're planning for a holiday, you're sort of really enthusiastic. So, so that's just a way for dads to, to show the partner that they're thinking about their well-being and thinking about them as couples because, mums often report that they feel like they've lost an identity when they've become a new mum. These are all things we load on the dads during the antenatal period. I'm not sure how much sticks. Look, I think what happens is there's certain dads who grasp one point and other dad might, that applies to me and so forth. And certainly in the postnatal period following the birth, they're far more switched on about the realities of what it's like to be a new parent. So, and we do talk a lot about the changes, as I said, and particularly change in relationship. And I no doubt we'll get on to mental health and wellbeing in a minute, but that's a big factor in dad's mental health and wellbeing is how that relationship changes.
Yeah, definitely. And we want to talk about, even with all the preparations and all the things that you offer, Keith, through DadsWA, the fact is dads still feel that stress once baby is born. And I think I've heard you mention the term prior was calling it dad stress because you did say before that it's hard. Language is a hard thing for some dads. Yes. And so struggling and those kind of words are more widely used than maybe mental health.
Yes.
Could you speak to that a little bit more about what dads are actually experiencing?
Yes, certainly. We know when I first started in this work, or with Ngala, the general consensus was that about 1 in 16 dads experience some sort of mental health struggle during that perinatal period. And by struggle, we mean where it's actually impacting on their parenting and their relationships and so forth. Because we know, obviously, that everybody feels some stress and anxiety during leading up to and following the birth of their child. But not long after, a few years later, some major studies were done, and it was determined that it was closer to 1 in 10 dads who experiencing those mental health struggles, stress and anxiety and so forth. And you're right about the language. Dads don't identify with having postnatal depression, and rightly so. It is a different phenomenon for mums that mums experience, but they can experience depression. But they always associate postnatal depression with mums. They're very aware of it too. So we often have dads ask about that in session. So health agencies and so forth have done a really good job of promoting the need for support around that. But yeah, they struggle for a number of reasons. Then, and we talk to dads about this. It's sort of a part of the session that you can see the dads are sort of going, oh, they're all, especially expectant dads. We're all sort of hyped up about having a baby, and here you're talking about how I might struggle. But I think it is important, or we think it is important to talk about it because forewarned is foreprepared, hopefully. And we outlined there are generally 3 reasons that are identified why dads may struggle. The first is I've mentioned about the change in relationship with their partner. So they've gone, this is a person who's been their number one confidant for a lot of dads. They're a person that they're totally sort of obviously connected to each other and so forth, and all of a sudden she's drawn away to another or a child. And as one dad put it quite well in one of the sessions, I went from being number 1 to number 2, and I think I might even be number 3 after the dog. So that was good. He was using humour, which often men do use to address these issues. So that change in relationship, which is why, as I've previously discussed, we talk about some of the ways you can work with that. The fact that many dads don't feel they're competent around parenting, so that's why our sort of programs and all the programs that are out there for dads are so important to give them that confidence. And the good news with dads and men in general is we don't take a lot to encourage us. So we generally a bit of positive feedback, and we're on our way. And I do,
gold star.
Good job, exactly. And that's and I do say that when I'm talking to mums. That's the great news. And with practitioners who work with dads, the other side of the coin is, of course, can be easily discouraged. So one word you're doing it wrong can make a dad head off down the backyard into his shed or whatever. So that's why mums do play a pretty important role in terms of engaging dads themselves in terms of encouragement and support as much as they are able to, because they're very heavily involved in bub. So so we talk about those sort of changes, but also the final factor for dads is that work-life balance. So most dads, as I've mentioned, still in our society, it's still mainly dad who heads back out to work, and again that's changing. And the post-COVID work flexibility has been a big help. We get a lot of dads in our groups that are doing at least a couple of days at home, which is wonderful, and they say I'm involved in the parenting while I'm doing that, and they love it, and it's fantastic, and it really helps their mental health, I think. But a lot of dads go off to work, and they're conscious that they need, and we do highlight to dads, it is a very important part of parenting is obviously bringing resources into the household, whoever's doing it, because we need obviously baby and everyone needs a roof over their head and so forth. But they feel like they're missing out on a lot from parenting, and they feel like they're maybe abrogating some of their responsibility around parenting. Now, modern technology with phones and connection, being able to connect through video and so forth has helped that a lot, especially FIFO workers and so forth. But there's no doubt that dads are still reporting that. We've had dads say, sometimes I sit at work and say, what the bloody hell am I doing here? Just my little boys just started rolling or doing whatever, or smiling or, giggling, and I'm stuck here and doing this. So so we do talk a bit about work-life balance, about how they can, try and make the best of that situation. But certainly our message, overarching message to dads is if you're struggling, if you're feeling like you're not firing on all cylinders, we're using this sort of language, then reach out for support. Now, a lot of dads, as you're well known, a lot of men aren't great support seekers, help seekers. So we highlight to dads the impact it can have on their family, on mum and baby. And some of the research shows that a struggling dad can have even a bigger impact on a family dynamic than mum. Because mum's losing her number one support person, and she's then worrying about her partner as well as what's happening with baby, and baby picks that up, and bub can be affected by it as well. So say to dads who think, no, I don't, she's got enough on her plate, I don't want to burden her with this, that's not the good way to do it. So reach out for support for the good well-being of your partner and the well-being of your child. And the good news is there's a lot of options out there for dad. Of course, the first step is GP to start the referral pathway there, but also for those dads who are just feeling like they're not going well, sure your focus is on mum and baby, but it's important for them that you are going well, travelling well also, because we talked that babies are very perceptive at seeing changing moods and attitudes. So we say to dad, if you're struggling getting out of bed, if you're getting angry all the time, if you're finding that you can't seem to develop this connection, you're feeling a bit disconnected from it all, and so forth. So so it's wonderful to see that there's a lot more emphasis on that, as well as obviously the struggles that mum goes through, because it's a whole ecosystem, isn't it? It ties in together and one affects the other.
Yep.
So, and we know certainly we've received lots of calls and emails from mums that say, oh, look, my partner seems to be struggling a bit. Oh, there's some dads groups out there and so forth. So mums are very aware of it as well.
And you mentioned a couple of things there, like having trouble getting out of bed, feeling irritable, maybe changes in mood. Are there other things that dad stress can manifest, like what else? Red flags or things to kind of, because sometimes you might not always be aware that have all that weight on your shoulders, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why those online tests are very important. And they're very done, the ones they've developed are very non-clinical. They ask very general questions and not specific sort of clinical type questions that you might get in some surveys. But yeah, certainly alcohol and drug consumption is a big one. If you're, a lot of fairly recent ones is spending a lot of time in gaming, locking yourself away there. But we're just not connecting. And look, we know that mums and dads, it can take a while to connect with baby. And, I remember my second child, I still after I came home looking down and saying, who the hell are you and what are you doing here, sort of thing.
You're my new housemate.
Yeah, exactly, because we'd had quite our first for quite a while before the second came along. So that's not unusual, that happens. But when you really feel like you're not looking forward to coming home to bub and to your partner, you're just sort of having trouble playing and interacting and responding to your baby, then those are signs that you should be reaching out. But we do prevention is better than obviously cure, so that's why we talk about some of the things you can do to take care of yourself pre that. And one of the big ones is actually trying to connect with other dads, and it's really wonderful to see that there's a growing number of dads groups emerging. A lot of them start online through social media, and then they meet up in person every now and then. So, but we also say to dads, look, try and get in, connect with one of those groups if you can. But when you're out and about, do what mums do. They see another mum with a baby, they go up and have a chat. Not all the time, but see a dad, ask them about their bub or their child, how things going at sporting events or whatever, and just because. One of the things that many dads feel is that this journey and this struggle around being a new dad is unique to them. That's something I'm feeling alone, and that's very common feedback we get in our sessions is that, it was great to hear that other dads are feeling the same way as me, not necessarily around mental health issues, but generally about, how finding this tough and that challenging and so forth. So, so that's hopefully, again, we encourage dads that dads are retaining some of this information. But there might be a little spark in the back of their mind when it happens. They go, hang on, I remember something about that. But very important mental health, obviously, both parents around well-being of child and each other, of course.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. You've been a wealth of information and lots of interesting tips. And thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thanks for listening to Parenting with Ngala. The topics covered in our podcast are general in nature, and the information might not suit everyone. If you're in Western Australia and would like to chat about a specific challenge, you can talk directly to the Ngala Parenting Line by calling 9368 9368. For all other links and resources, check out the Ngala website and the show notes below. Thank you again and see you next time.